What's up? Another edition of MPTV. Here we are. First time ever.
Cha-ching, baby.
Can't say cha-ching, but we're going to keep that in.
Okay.
Because she screwed me up. Not cha-chinging yet.
Okay, I didn't know that.
I'm doing an intro. I'll introduce you.
Okay.
Okay, that could be a blooper reel. What's up? It's Matt. We're back with another episode of MPTV. This time, first time ever, you got double the fun. You've got two Plapps, Matt Plapp, my dad, Duane Plapp. Now you can cha-ching, Dad.
Cha-ching, baby.
Dad, tell the audience of MPTV who Duane Plapp is, besides the father of the greatest kid ever.
I'm just a local businessman, entrepreneur for the last 50 or 60 years, enjoying life, and have been always owned my own businesses. And so I'm an entrepreneur and always started in sales and worked in sales, and now we do sales and marketing training.
50 to 60 years.
50, let's see.
Because you said 50 to 60. I'm going to hold you to that. So you're 74 right now, right?
Actually, just about 54 years.
Okay.
Started selling when I was 20.
Okay. So your specialty is relationships, is sales, is customer service. Your background, give me a couple of your jobs you've had in the background so we can kind of relate this back to the audience. Because the audience of a podcast are restaurant owners and operators. And I think one thing that you'll bring value of today is talking about the relationship side of people, because unfortunately in the restaurant business, it's a numbers game for a lot of restaurants. They don't do any kind of acknowledgement in the restaurant of their customers, unfortunately. So I want to bring that to the table. But tell us some of your background, because I know you as the Michael Jordan of sales.
Started out in 1969. Went to work for Valspar Paint as a district sales manager. I had 5 states, North and South Carolina, Virginia.
Which is where you met Mom, right?
I met Mom at a bar in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay. So after Valspar, went to the insurance business?
Started in the insurance business basically on a bet.
Okay.
And so I did that till 1991, and then sold my agency, and then retired supposedly. And next thing you know, my 2 sons, you and your brother, talked me into getting into the retail business.
Whoa. I remember the conversation. You started it because Sam was coming back from the Navy. Hey, it'd be cool to do something with my sons. And next thing I know, we're in a $15 million a year, 3-location, 40-employee boat and RV dealership that none of us had the head to handle at that time.
Well, we grew too fast.
Yeah, we grew too fast, and we grew on the bank's money. So we'll get back to that. But I want to talk about a story that you've told before, because I think this is a big mistake in the retail world and also in the restaurant world. You told a story back when I was a kid about, not a kid, you've told it many times, about how when you worked for Valspar, you were brought to Cincinnati to unwind the store here, get rid of it. And within a month or two, it was the #1 store. So tell that story about that, and I want to bring that full circle to retail and restaurant.
Well, it was all about upselling. They asked me to close the store out. I said, okay, fine. So I started closing the store out. Well, you got a paint store there, and you got sundry items, and there's all kinds of items all over everywhere you had to get rid of. So a guy would walk in, would want to buy a gallon of paint, and I say, hey, you probably need a paintbrush for that. You need a drop cloth. You might need a ladder. Might need some clothes for it, a painter's clothes. And next thing you know, these guys are buying all this other stuff, and that store went from being dead last to #1 in the country.
Simply by doing your job.
Just by doing my job, getting rid of everything.
See, 2 weeks ago, when we were working on this exact table in front of us, we went to a couple different places. And the one store I went in, I said, hey, I'm looking for this. Like, oh, it's in aisle 18, they point. And I'm leaving that person. I'm like, my dad would have murdered that person. You don't point. You walk people there. So #1, you can make sure they get the right item. And then #2, you ask questions about the item they're buying. Oh, you probably need this, this, and this. Now you just saved the headache. They've got the products they need, and the business has more sales. I'm going to guess you didn't point.
No. Matter of fact, if I caught someone in our retail store painting, we kind of broke the finger off.
I'll point.
Yeah. Matter of fact, I think probably the best one in our retail story is when some guy walked in one day, had bought a camper from us, and he wanted a sewer hose. And it was like, sewer hoses are about $15, $20. He walked out spending $1,100. And the reason why he bought a sewer hose, he bought some jacks for the travel trailer. He then bought some connections for the sewer hose, and then he bought a hose for the sewer the works the sewer hose out.
You know, I remember this too, because before you got ready to say that, I was going to tell you, there's these little stories about us in the retail business. And as a background, my dad and I have worked together since '99 in some capacity or another. We're best friends basically. We're just like each other. You know, you're the 30-year-old version of me, 30-year-old older version.
Oh, there it is. Wait a minute.
No, you're not 30.
I'm 30, baby.
Yeah. So you're 75. What are you? 74, 75?
75,
Okay,
74, it'll be 75 in February.
Okay, so you're basically 29 and 3/4 years older than me. I'm 45.
Okay.
And there's a lot of these things I remember about you and I watch because I used to marvel at it. But you never did things that weren't, number one, honest or weren't what they wanted. You were just damn good at asking questions. And I remember when that person came into the sewage hose, you were all excited because we had just gotten this new clear sewer hose attachment in that had a hose. And if you've ever emptied the sewage on a camper, there's some unexpected things that can come out when you don't want them to come out and you don't want them on you. And this hose, instead of the old school hose, you'd twist on there and it'd be blue or green and the crap and urine and water would go through there. And you had to guess if there was anything hanging or something going to get on you. This thing allowed you to see it because it was clear. And then it had a hose attachment that you could hook the hose up to it, turn the water on, and it backwashed everything. So it made it a pretty freaking clean experience. It's clean as dumping piss and
Unlike
crap
Robin
out.
Williams in Vacation.
Yeah. So what I remember was, I remember this story because I remember marveling because I used to watch you. I don't know if you knew this or not, but I used to watch you from a distance and be like, how does this dude do this stuff? Because like I've always joked, you could probably sell me my own building. You could probably get done in the next hour and be like, okay, Dad, I'm in it. I'd buy my building from myself because of you. But the one thing I always loved about you was you always looked out. It wasn't like you were selling them something to sell them something. Guy came in looking for a sewer hose. And you said, hey, let me show you something that's going to make your life easier with that sewer hose, which was the clear thing. And then you saw that he had a Dale Earnhardt Jr. I remember this. And we had just gotten in NASCAR-themed camper lights for the awning, and he got those. And so it wasn't as if he left with $1,100 and stuff. Yeah, from a retail standpoint, sales, you want to sell, you want to upsell. If you're a restaurant, you want a $9 burger to become $14. You want a $40 average check to become $50 or $60. But you want to do it right.
Well, you want to do it so you're not selling him something he's never going to use. Okay, you're not selling something just to be selling something. You sell him something. Give you an example. One of the things that always everybody had bought a new camper. Nobody ever bothered to. I remember when I bought my first camper, no one sat there and said, Duane, this is what you need to do. Here's the things you need to have in the camper. So you're kind of humorous. Okay, I get to my first campsite after we bought our first camper, and we get there and we have nothing. We got none of the things that we got to have the camper. So I end up going to the camper store, paying twice the retail for water hoses, for hookups, for sewage hoses, for leveling jacks.
They got you. They know you're not near home base.
Exactly. So you come out of there. I spent the first camping. I spent about $250 on things that we had to have in the camper that nobody bothered to tell me that we needed to have, and I could have bought for about half what I paid for them because you're buying from a camping store, which jacks the price up because of the fact that
they're on the campground.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I would make sure, one of the big things I always saw was this guys breaking their backs, hooking their camper up. There's an easy way to hook your camper up. So I would actually spend a half an hour to an hour with somebody, explaining to them exactly some of the things that they're going to need to do. Matter of fact, if you're on Facebook, one of the things that always happens on my Facebook page, the 10 things that you need to take when you're camping, the 10 things you don't want to do when you're camping, the 10 things this. Well, guess what? 80% of those things that no one ever tells you about when you're buying the camper, or you're buying a motorhome, or you're buying the boat.
Which does you an in-service, because what happens, because I'm married, I've got kids, I've got campers. I was fortunate to grow up around it, so never really had any of the major issues people have. But I've been at campgrounds and watched the arguments, the husband and wife. And next thing you know, what goes from being a very good experience of going on a camping trip, they run into, like I saw a guy with his $1 million motorhome who apparently never had driven one in Gatlinburg, run into a brick wall with it next to me. And it was the funniest thing ever, honestly. And he was ripping shit off left and right. But I watched him go to set up his camper, and I actually went over and helped out after him and his wife had come to blows because they didn't have the right stuff. They weren't instructed correctly. And I think what a lot of people fail to realize in the restaurant space, and especially retail, but restaurant big time, yes, you have food. Yes, you're giving people hospitality. But number one, you are sales and marketing. Because if you don't have people that walk in, you don't have customers. And if you don't sell them something, their experience isn't the best. I had a restaurant owner up in Boston tell me this about his sandwich shop. Is he said, hey, our sandwiches come a certain way, but there's about 15 toppings for each one. Our reviews on Yelp and on Google and on Facebook, will be better, the better their experience. And so if they come in and get this sandwich and they go on their way and it's an average sandwich, where if the person says, hey, by the way, you like peppers? I love peppers. Okay, you need to get this, this, and this added to this. Are you a bacon fan? Who the hell doesn't love bacon? Good. Add bacon and add our bacon jam. Oh, cool. Next thing you know, that sandwich just went up $3. So the restaurant made more money on that transaction, but also the person had a hell of a lot better burger or sandwich.
And enjoyed it.
And got on Yelp. And he said, Matt, we see it all the time. They get on Yelp and they say, holy crap, it was unbelievable. And this is similar to desserts at restaurants. A lot of consumers don't buy desserts at restaurants because they're already full. They've already done that. But if they have that dessert and it's out of this world, like I remember, we had the company party and Doug and I were up there at Black Rock, back 6 months ago, and we had that giant volcano brownie. You weren't even there. Did we invite you?
No.
Sorry, I'm a bad son. But
big time.
We had this giant volcano brownie.
Thanks for inviting me.
Well, you're diabetic.
Giant volcanic. Well, I could probably take some extra insulin.
Well, but regardless, what happened was we had a better meal. We had a lot of conversations about it. I'm talking about it now. We took a picture and put it on Facebook and Instagram because we got that item. The problem is the server didn't sell it to us. I already knew about it. I knew about it because we handle their digital marketing, and we got to have this damn volcano brownie. So I think that's a huge task. So if you were to tell a restaurant owner, they're dealing with servers, bartenders who aren't traditionally salespeople, what are a couple things they could do to teach their staff to upsell correctly?
Well, I think probably is example. I mean, probably 90% of the servers in most restaurants do what their bosses do. Okay. Give me an example. We were in.
So you're giving me an example for an example.
Yeah, exactly.
Just clarifying. Double example. We got to have a graphic that's double example.
And there we go. The wife and I did a speech up in Victor, Wyoming for a convention, and we were staying in a campground, and there was a hamburger joint right on the corner as you came in the campground almost. Okay. And it had a sign, "World's Greatest Hamburger." Okay?
Shit, you went to the place, the world's greatest hamburger?
That's what they said.
Jesus.
So I walk in the place, and it's a little hole in the wall. And the guy who owns the place, okay, he's got a beard, and he's kind of tall and skinny. And he, ironically enough, he's from Kentucky, okay? But he was walking around touching the tables, or talking to everybody. So we got ready to eat our food, okay, talking to it. He walks up, and I said, well, what hamburger should I be getting? So he asked me about 4 questions. What do you like eggs? Do you like this? Do you like that? Do you like this? I said, yeah. Well, next thing he goes, what you need is a double hamburger that's got the egg on top and the bacon here, and it just, you'll love it. Well, I looked around, and the same servers are doing the same thing he's doing. Yep. Based on the fact that he's doing it, they're mimicking him. Yep. But if I'm an owner and you walk into my retail store and I say it's over there and I point to it, guess what my employees are going to do? Point to it. We had a rule in our retail store, you couldn't point. Way to get a broken finger. Okay, you had to walk up and do some upselling.
I'm picturing Richie Young with casts on all his fingers.
and the reason why is I did it. You walked in our store, you asked me a question. We were going to. I would take you by the hand. Probably the best story I think in that situation is my wife and I about 10 years ago, or 15 years, we wanted a lamp. We go to the Lowe's. I asked the gentleman where the lights were at. Well, instead of pointing like most people do, he actually took us over to the lights. And he was pointing out the different lights and the different benefits of this light and benefits of that light and how it works and how. Well, we ended up buying a light that we didn't want because we started liking the guy. And so we're looking for a reason to buy a light from him. So we actually bought a light from him that we didn't want because guess what? The guy was so good at being nice and friendly and pointing things out to us, we felt obligated to buy something from him. That's what you want to do when you're selling. You create the relationship, the atmosphere where that person starts to like you. Once they start to like you, they're gonna come back. We go to one Mexican restaurant all the time, and the reason why is the first time we went in there, the people were so friendly. The guy ordered a pitcher of beer. He comes back with a pitcher of beer with 2 frozen mugs, and each mug's got about a quarter of beer in it. Well, guess what? Who's ever gotten a pitcher of beer with the 2 mugs got a little bit of beer in them? Didn't have to do it. Didn't cost them any money. But guess what? I'm going, oh, my God, it's a nice place. We've been going there now for 15 years. We go there there's 2 other Mexican places close by. They're not as friendly. We go to this one all the time because the people are so nice. The guy comes up and sits down and talks to us.
Elna Powell, right?
Elna Paul.
Yep.
Right there in Carrollton, Kentucky. The one guy, I think his name's Rodriguez, okay? He's always talking to us. He's coming by. Every time he walks by the table, he says, hey, guys, he waves to me. How you guys doing? Everything going good? Hey, great, great. And then like the other night, one of the guys had a shrimp cocktail. I'd never had one before there. This was about 2 months ago. So I asked him, I said, what's this thing this guy over there's a guy? He says, shrimp cocktail. He says, you need to try one. I love it. I've gotten one. The last 3 weeks, I've gotten it in a row. Fantastic. 12 shrimp, and it's got the sauce in it. Tastes phenomenal. Never would have done it. He suggested it.
Yep. And a lot of that comes down to conversations and relationships. And I think that's a huge mistake in the restaurant business. And lately, the excuse I hear is, we're understaffed, the pandemic, employment. I'm like, you know what? You weren't doing it before. I eat out. As you know, me and Christy and the kids eat out all the time. Last night, it was barleycorns. The night before, we went to a pizza place, which was unbelievable down in Western Kentucky, by the way. We got to hit there with America's Best Restaurants. Amazing independent pizza place. But we eat out all the time. And the common denominator that I see from every restaurant the last 10 years, there's two things that they never do. Number one, nobody ever comes by and has that conversation and builds a relationship. And number two, nobody ever has a way to get my information. It amazes me. I've been to 1,000+ restaurants, and I can count on probably two hands the number of places that have walked up and said something along the lines of, hey, man, ABCD, get this, join this program.
Well, one of the things I've noticed in working with your sales guys and you is that the number one thing for me, if I had a restaurant and I was trying to sell it, one of the most important assets I would have is my list.
Customer list, yeah.
My customer list. And it amazes me the number of conversations I hear with you guys and you're talking to different restaurants, they haven't got a customer list.
No.
And if they do have, they don't connect with them. If you're not nurturing your customers and getting them in there, it's huge.
9 out of 10 don't have a list. The 1 out of 10 that have a list, there's no names. There's just an email. There's no visit frequency. There's no birthday. It's equivalent. They're like, hey, you. Yeah, you.
Come by from us.
Come by for lunch.
Come by.
But the thing I love about you, and I got to watch, is that a lot of things, like people always rave about how I am from a standpoint of creating this company and my sales skills and my marketing and my ideas. And I'm like you said, it came from me watching. I saw you and Mom always doing this stuff. And especially the boat dealership, because Mom was retired during that phase of the career because she worked with you in the insurance world. But at the boat dealership, you practiced what you preach. You didn't sit in your office. You could have. You made plenty of money. Could have sat in the office, did what you wanted to do, play solitaire and went on your way. No, when you saw somebody walk out, if you saw them not taking the action that they should, or you saw the conversation go a little awry, you walked out, and next thing you know, somebody with 1 life vest left with 4 life vests. And what a lot of people don't realize is they look at upselling, they look at sales as a nasty thing. There's a bad connotation a lot of times to it. When in fact, sales is what, done correctly, is what makes the experience better. Is that having that dining experience where you have the certain appetizer, you have the certain toppings on your meal, you have the correct meal. I can't say how many times I go to a restaurant and say, hey, which burger's better? I don't know, I've never had one. I'm like, what
I don't eat that. I'm vegetarian. Okay,
well, you can't affect that one. I mean, if somebody's vegetarian,
but I'm just saying, I get it all the time. I don't eat here.
Well, then what?
I don't like their food.
Yeah. Well,
what's the best thing in the house? I don't know. I've not had anything.
Well, and if
I hear that all the time.
If they're vegetarian, well, at least they could say is, hey, I'm a vegetarian, but 9 out of 10 customers get this.
Well, here's another thing I've had. I've had 2 or 3 ladies tell me they're vegetarian, but say, hey, I'm vegetarian and I eat this. Okay? And this is a thing that I really like.
Have you ever had a vegetable?
Oh, yeah. Onion rings.
You remember that?
Onion rings are a vegetable.
This is a sidebar. By the way, I'm really surprised. I'm really proud of you. We've only gotten 1 cha-ching. If you know my dad, there's usually about 40 cha-chings in every conversation. So I was going to hope this episode David would have a cha-ching counter, but you've kind of screwed that up because you're only on your 2nd cha-ching.
Well, I gave a speech last week to a marketing company, and it was an hour speech, and I must have said cha-ching about, I guess, 35 or 40 times because when I got ready to do the close and I was doing the call to action, one of the girls in the audience said, cha-ching, baby.
So back to the onion ring story. So you had told me this was
A diet lunch.
By 7 or 8 years ago that you were going to start watching what you eat. And so me and Bryn Scanlon walk into the Frisch's down off of Fifth Street in Covington, Kentucky. And I see you squirreling back in the little corner. And I'm like, my dad? I walk back, what are you doing? And you act, you act like you didn't see me. You knew I was there. And I'm like, what do you got? Oh, you're eating better. I am. Like, you've got a double cheeseburger and onion rings. That's a vegetable. And you were literally trying to convince me that you were watching what you were eating because you went with an onion ring for lunch. So
a vegetable, baby.
So that's a sidebar. That's my dad's nutritional advice. So we talked about table touches. We talked about upselling. We talked about relationships. I saw this one a couple weeks ago, and it cracked me up. So David Scott Peters was in town. I think you met him.
Oh, yeah, he spoke that one day.
Yeah, Restaurant Prosperity Forum. The dude's a beast. And we're at a restaurant down the street. I wouldn't say it's high-end, but it's a higher end than normal. And we each ordered like a $50 steak, and then everybody else had their food. And so the GM walks by, and we knew it was a GM just because the way he was acting, you could just tell. I think
you always can tell GM.
He might have even introduced himself somehow with that, but we knew it wasn't. He came back out after we started eating. And he goes, "Is everything good?" And we said, "Yeah, it's fine." And he left. And David Scott Peters looks at me and says, "Damn, I hope everything's like I don't want people to have a good meal. Everything better be great." And go a little deeper. Matt, your steak looks awesome. Is it exactly what you wanted?
There you go.
And instead of just going, is everything good?
Is everything good?
Because that's pretty good.
I know.
Because most people are going to be non-confrontational. Yeah, it's fine. And so and
then as soon as you leave, your wife says, "By the way, this steak is overdone, or it's under. We ain't coming back here ever to eat." Matter of fact, that happened 2 weeks ago. We went to a place and Lorinda, not being non-confrontational, says, guy walked by and says, "Everything good?" "Oh, yeah. And just kind of get a little, hey. She walked in, she says, "We're not eating here again ever."
Because it's non-confrontational. Whereas he walked up and said, knew their name or maybe just had an introduction and said, "Is your steak phenomenal? If it's not excellent, please let me know." Then Mom would have been like, "Well, yeah, it's cooked kind of under, it's this or that." And then he could have fixed it and made it better. Okay, break time. Restaurant owners, you're watching MPTV, so you're obviously interested in increasing your sales and profits. But what if I told you could eliminate the hope and pray out of your marketing? You could spend money and actually see results. Most marketing starts with attention, like a billboard. The problem is that attention leads nowhere. That's why we created the ROI Engine Restaurant Program. We take attention and gain huge engagement, whether it's in-store or online. We help you build a database with deep customer information that's comprised of email, cell phone, and birthday. And then we drive them into the restaurant with trackable results. Yes, results you can actually see. If you're interested and want to have a conversation, check out restaurantmarketingthatworks.com. Worst case scenario, you get a lot of great ideas. Now back to the show.
Probably the best of all time was at Barleycorns when you were a kid with Art Wilkerson.
That dude owes me wings for life.
I know. Art Wilkerson would come by and he would almost be sitting at your table talking to you. Okay, he would come by and he'd say, "Okay, not only everything good, but he'd say, what sausage you get on your wings and this and that and other thing." And he'd be talking about sports and if you're wearing I used to wear my Bears jacket, so we'd get in a conversation with the Bears versus the Bengals, which created the bet where the Bears beat the Bengals 50-50 to 51-3, and Matthew got wings for life.
You only let me take advantage of it for a year because you told him, you're my client.
I know.
I'm not going to let
Poor
you
guy.
give Matthew free wings.
But the thing is, they were super nice to us. I mean, to the point when we walked in, "Hey, Duane, how you doing? Have a seat. We got the table just for you. Hey, come on over here." And probably the other one, probably one of the best, and he's actually I had a comment about a month ago from a guy who knows him, and he said he may be the best Chinese restaurant in America. Was Mike Wong, okay, with his Chinese restaurant in Lakeside Park, Fort Mitchell, and you would walk in, and he may not even know you, but by the time you sat down, you were his best friend.
You felt like you were brothers. What's the name of the restaurant? I can't think of it. It's next to Graders.
I know.
They got the crazy long limo. Oriental Walk. So to me, the best one ever is Bob Jacoby. Worked at Quaker Steak and Lube in Florence for a long time. One of Jim Combs restaurants. Now he's in, I think, Louisville at City Barbecue. But what I liked about Bob was he not only did the the upselling and things like that. But when he came by the table, he had what I call a VBR, valid business reason to have a conversation. It wasn't, is everything okay? Is everything good? It was very specific to a point, and people gave answers. So,
and he'd shake your hand and say, "I'm Bob. I'm the manager."
Yep.
Next thing, before when you got ready to leave, you see sitting there waving at you, talking to you on the way out. And you couldn't wait to get back. So you get in the car, and your wife's going, "Hey, when are we going back?" That's what you want. You don't want. You don't want. Okay, I had an okay meal. See you later, and then you never go back. What you want to do is have a relationship where you're getting in your car and your wife says, "Where are you going to go eat?" And you're going, "I'm going to Quaker Steak, see old Bob."
Yep.
Restaurant owners, did you know Matt has free online marketing courses that teach you how to successfully market your restaurant? Email support@mattplapp.com to get access to the courses and a free social media content calendar.
Well, cool.
Ching.
There's our third or fourth Ching. This is the end of the episode, Dad. I always ask one final question. I don't actually know the answer to this. I kind of maybe know, but I don't know exactly what to say. I always ask airplane mode. You're 70, almost 75, and you hustle as much as any 25-year-old on this planet. Your energy is unbelievable. You just dominated me in ping pong, which I want to rematch.
Ching, baby.
There's like 5 cha-chings. Sir, if you got me a couple of times, I'll give you that. But I always ask airplane mode. As an entrepreneur, as somebody that loves what you do, what do you do to turn it off? At the end of the day, the weekends, what is something you do to get away from Matt Plapp, from your coaches, from my employees you coach? What do you do to turn it off?
I sit down, and when it's summertime, we sit by the fire. We have our patio, our deck on a patio. I have smoke a cigar and relax. Maybe have a cold beer or a glass of wine and just sit there and relax. And Learned and I have a conversation for a while, and then that's it, baby. It gives me a chance to slow down a little bit.
And I thought you were gonna say cigars. I was gonna say cigars or golfing or fishing. The thing is, like, golfing, you're pretty decent at nowadays. You used to be awesome, but you're getting older. You're like 190 now, so you're getting better. And then cigars, I know you love because that's what I get you every damn holiday. Medium cigars. But I thought maybe you might bring up fishing, which you're terrible at.
I know I'm terrible at fishing, but I do that. Matter of fact, it's so funny. We had our basement. We had a guy come in and fix some of our basement up, and we do some of the stuff in the basement. And he looks at me and he goes, "Now, how many poles do you have?" I said, what do you mean? He says, "I see poles, fishing poles everywhere." So I counted them. There were 63 fishing poles in the basement.
Obsessive. Well, cool. Well, thanks for being on the podcast, Dad.
But it's fantastic. I love it. Cha-ching.
Cha-ching, baby. That's all we got with this episode of MPTV. If you take anything from this episode, it's a good cigar. It's a great way to chill out and relax and rekindle that love with your wife. But then also take your table touchers a step farther.
Great relationships.
Great relationships. Learn how to upsell. Learn how to make the experience better. But also, please, for the love of God, do not ask, is everything okay? Because okay should not be what you want. See you later.
Cha-ching.